Tennessee and Virginia have both filed lawsuits against the NCAA having to deal with basically the NIL and the way it was handled in recruiting through the transfer portal, etc. Now remember, the NCAA is going after a collective that is attached to the University of Tennessee, but nobody is employed by the University of Tennessee. So we're seeing what's happening at Florida. We're seeing what's happening at Florida State. We're seeing what's happening now at Tennessee. And if you can go after collectives and there's not an employee that's attached, whether it be about NIL in the transfer portal or with recruits, you are opening up a bag to go after everyone. And I've been told from people I trust, there's a couple of big-time schools that you should find about here in the next couple of days or maybe even early next week that are going to join this because the NCAA is going to come after them. Here is where the NCAA made their biggest mistake. They continue to think that they are the big dog, but they are really a paper tiger. Why would you not, instead of going after these universities and saying that you're going to ban them from the postseason or there may be scholarship reductions retroactively when there really is no rules in the first place, why not go to them and say, listen, whatever has happened to this point, let's grandfather it in. We're going to try and set some guidelines now to be able to button this thing up. And if the schools still want to sue you or take you to court for some antitrust lawsuit or saying that you're prohibiting the players from making money the way that they're supposed to be able to in the country we live in, that's a totally different story. And I don't think it would go down like that. But when you threaten them, when you're so used to having power, when you're so afraid that you're losing your grasp on power, that you threaten to hurt them or to hit them where it hurts the most, don't be shocked when you have everybody attached to that school and then a group or a collective of the biggest schools that have been taking part in the NIL come after you from a law standpoint. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, NCAA, you're not going to win this one. We've heard multiple coaches say that there is not a chance in hell that these players or the representatives for these players are going to lose a legal battle when it comes to them being able to collect a paycheck for NIL. So how about the NCAA takes a page from one of our favorite movies, maybe not David's, but one of ours, Step Brothers. Febreze Brothers, man, it's a fresh start. We didn't have a lot of rules early. Let's button this thing up. Everybody's grandfathered in. Nobody can get in trouble. But from here on out, let's make sure we have some rules that we can all follow so this thing goes smoothly. But that would be too easy, and that would mean that they relinquish some power. And those clowns are not going to do that with the NCAA. All right, so I'm going to bring in my co-host, former Michigan quarterback David Cohn. I know he's got some interesting thoughts on this. My brother Blaine Crane as well in the chat. We want to know what you think. It's been buzzing over there. I do want to take a couple seconds out to say thank you guys for the growth that we've had. Went and looked at the numbers the other day. We are just up an incredible amount from where we started this thing, and it's because of you guys, and we really love it. It's the Booster Club. It's the call-ins. So we just want to thank you guys buying the merch, doing those things to help us keep doing what we love and try and help you get through the morning or whenever you listen to us. But, David, NCAA, why would you not – it's not even suing for peace, right? It's trying to come to the table where you can keep your power if you go about it the right way. And if they want to spit in your face and take you to court, well, you did what you could do. You tried to help them out as much as possible, and it was always going to go this way. What do you say?
Well, the good news is there's too much money in college athletics and specifically in college football for this thing to be completely derailed. I think the powers that be across the landscape of college football are seeing, man, this is not good. And we have more and more coaches. I know we're going to talk about Jeff Hafley now leaving for the NFL. We just saw Jim Harbaugh do the same thing. College coaches like Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams are leaving left and right, even sometimes earlier than they otherwise would have. People are seeing this, people who stand to gain a lot of money. And I think they realize there's more than enough money to go around, even when it comes to revenue sharing with college athletes. Everybody can get a slice of the pie. Now, the NCAA, they lost the Ed O'Bannon case and they lost the Austin cases. That's where all of this really started, to say, like, no, you can't prevent college athletes from profiting off their name, image, and likeness. And we can talk ad nauseum about NIL and pay for play being two different things, but at the end of the day, if the football program and the university wants to pay a kid to come there, they can can just put it under the NIL category and say, well, we're paying a kid for his name, image, and likeness. Now, how does that get tied to his on-field performance? Can you then kick him off the team and remove his scholarship? Those are all things that need to be addressed, and they have needed to be addressed. So the NCAA, when they lost those cases, immediately have turned to Congress, right? And I feel for the NCAA at times where they're in between a rock and a hard place saying, okay, we can't create any guardrails, we can't create any rules, or we get countersued, or we get overturned in appeals court because it's seen as being exploitative of student athletes. So they've turned to Congress. We've talked to Senator Tommy Tuberville. We've talked to Senator Ted Cruz. They've let college athletics go off the rails until Congress acts. So my question is, why then do you still pick and choose which universities have broken rules? If you're waiting for Congress to create a uniform set of guidelines, then why are you calling out Tennessee specifically, or keeping LSU players from being able to play because they signed autograph 3 years ago, or calling out the University of Michigan and forcing the conference to penalize these programs? That's what I don't understand. Get with Congress if that's the way you want to go. I'm still not convinced that anybody in Washington, D.C. needs to be worrying about college athletics. We need to create a governing body where football is completely separate from the other sports. But on Tennessee and Virginia specifically, now suing the NCAA, just remember it was only a few months ago when the University of Michigan also got very defensive about the Big Ten stepping in and suspending Jim Harbaugh, and they were going to leave the conference, and they were going to fight this in court. And it was only a few days later that they capitulated and Jim Harbaugh accepted his suspension, which, looking back, hey, that was the right move. You won the national championship. Let's just move forward and forget about it. It'll be interesting to see how bullish Tennessee and Virginia remain in this lawsuit, because at least for right now, it looks like everyone with power in the state from a legal and a congressional standpoint is getting involved to fight the NCAA.
Yeah, and Blaine and David, I want your thoughts on this, and in the chat as well. We're going to get there. Remember, if you donate and it's on topic, we are going to read that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Here's my problem. I get what you're saying, and you know what? There are times where I do realize that the NCAA is in a tough spot, but it seems like every time the NCAA is in a tough spot, they do the stupidest thing. They're not going after an employee of Tennessee, right? They are going after the collective that is attached to Tennessee, right? And a collective that is attached to other players and other programs as well. They can be fair game. So if you're going to go after the collective, you got to go after everybody. And I'm telling you, Georgia, it's coming. Ohio State, it's coming. I'm from people that I know. Tennessee and Virginia you think people are going to the border to help Texas right now? Wait till you see what this turns into with the NCAA coming after collectives. You don't go and just invade the other country when you get pissed off. It's better to maybe try and find a way to work around it before you send troops to the other side. And the NCAA is just like, they're just like the petulant child or the bully in the playground that's gotten hit in the face and he doesn't know how to react. So instead of trying to figure it out, he just goes nuts and goes off the rails. I don't understand why you wouldn't go and say, listen, guys, all right, we know that there's a big problem in between both these institutions, right? The NCAA and what college football is trying to do with NIL. Let's start fresh. Right? From here on out, here are some guidelines that we can go by. Do you agree with these? Do you agree with these? Let's mold it together so we can operate. And maybe that could keep the NCAA hanging on the raft like Leo DiCaprio, because Kate Winslet ass wouldn't scoot over. It'll take them longer to freeze to death. But that's not what they're going to do, David, because they have too much pride.
Yeah, go ahead, Blaine. I want to see what Blaine has to say, too.
Well, I think this is the NCAA trying to be relevant. I really think that you can feel them losing power, and this is what happens when they panic. It reminds me of kind of what Jake brought up earlier. It's like you go to an unexplored country, right? You go and you think you're the biggest, baddest guy up there, and the next thing you know, it's 2 a.m, you hear a bunch of Indian signs outside, and your whole village is burning down. Yeah. Right? This is what that is. You're walking into the jungle of teams who don't give a shit about what you think, all right? They don't. The NCAA is slowly figuring out that y'all don't matter. No one cares what y'all say anymore. There is no rules. And look, I know you're hamstrung in certain situations. That's fine. But anybody who thinks the NCAA is going to come out and make the right decision, buddy, I can sell you some beach property in Kansas pretty quickly. They never do. The NCAA is slowly getting away from college football, and it is the best thing the best thing that can happen to college football. I promise you. Get them out. Go. You're not going to win this. Once Georgia, Ohio State, Tennessee, and Virginia get in this, NCAA has pretty good lawyers, but it's like suits over in Athens.
Yeah, Harvey Specter showing up, just waiting on the NCAA to walk in the building.
Well, the college presidents are going to have to be the one who have that final say, because the situation we're dealing with right now is whenever the NCAA comes after one specific school, every other school in the country is like, see, yes, we need some standards and rules, and that program is always cheating. And you can see it with Tennessee right now. And they haven't helped themselves because they've been under investigation so much. So obviously there is something to that. And we've talked about how, yes, there clearly is something not being followed from a compliance standpoint. I'm not saying that Tennessee or Michigan or whoever else, hasn't followed the rules that actually do exist. Of course, if there are rules that are blatantly being violated for competitive advantage, yes, we need to hold programs accountable. But, whenever the NCAA comes for a certain school, then fans say, no, the NCAA is corrupt in this instance, but when they get my rival school, then of course that program is cheating. Enough is enough, guys. As college football fans, we all need to stand up and be uniformed here and say, hey, yes, we need a governing body. We need rules that we adhere to, so when we break them, our program or another program is held accountable. But the NCAA has proven time and time again that they have failed in that mission.
Yeah, well, the rules, I agree with you, David, 100%. But you can't punish somebody for breaking a rule that's like, you can pay players, ... Kinda.
Yeah, a little
that's
bit.
basically what the rule is.
Yeah.
That's why Donnie Plowman was like, these are the most vague and contradictory rules. Read the rules. It's if you look at them, I totally understand. And listen, 99.999% of the time, we're going to get to the Booster Club, when your rival gets in trouble with the NCAA, you are rooting for it, right? You are that's why we always talk about people we want our rival teams to do good. Stop lying to me. Stop lying to me. It's you don't want to finish second in the bake-off in your local county fair just because the old lady's been making the apple pie for 60 years. You want to win that, right? Did you see World War II? Yeah, but I'm trying to win this bake-off. But when it's scary, when Tennessee gets in trouble and you see a bunch of Georgia and Alabama fans are yeah, get them. Get the NCAA. That's when you know you're in trouble because they can see it coming down the pipe because this is about the collective. That's what I think is the craziest part about this whole situation. But I want to get to the Booster Club. All right, let's go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to pick up my phone.
Jeez.
All right.
Hey, everybody watch Jake pick up his phone because he dropped it this morning.
Nobody's looking.
All right, let's start off with S. Boone. What is up, my brother? He says, what is stopping all the schools from completely ignoring the NCAA all together?
Robin, how long I've been saying this? David, how long I've been saying this? Mm-hmm. Since Penny Hardaway told the NCAA at Memphis, they're like, yeah, Penny, you're suspended. He's like, nah, I'm not. I'm not suspended. You're suspended. What would they do? We talked about this with Michigan. They literally came out in the college football playoff, said, we're not worried about this Michigan, Connor Stallions thing. It really doesn't matter. The college football playoff's separate from what's going on with the NCAA. I would just say no. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Send troops to Knoxville to stop the game? That's the whole point. And all it takes is one person saying, no, we're just not going to do it. We're just not going to comply. Because again, what are you going to do about it? What's the NCAA going to do? So I think that would be a good step, in my opinion, when you're in the right. You know what I'm saying? But we're getting to a point where the NCAA, like Blaine was talking about, there's going to be a breakaway with at least Power 5 of college football. This is doing nothing but speeding up that process. And this is what happens when you have to build the parachute on the way down. And when you just roll things out with no rules, this is what happens. It's the same thing like I said yesterday. It's amazing the parents that shelter their kids till they turn 18, then they go to college and absolutely lose their mind the first time they go to a party or the first time they have a drink. It's the same thing. When you let the monster out of the hut and he starts ripping villagers apart, you can't be shocked. You can't be shocked. So that's where I'm at.
Well, the one
let's go to Bama Bob.
Yeah,
go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say the one person who is going to stand up and probably have to say no is going to be Greg Sankey. That's where it's probably going to start, is with the SEC as a full conference, not an individual school. It's probably going to be Greg Sankey leading college football again, just like he did through the pandemic.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be the Big Ten.
No.
I'm sure we know that. Let's go to Bama Bob. I'm pretty sure he's talking about Tennessee right here. He says, screw that. They low down, they dirty, and they some snitches.
Yeah, look, this one, if you've ever followed the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry, I mean, this one goes back deep. And there was some tattletaling going on. There were some codes broken in this. But at the end of the day, Bama Bob, I promise you want this to go Tennessee's way because Alabama's got a collective too. And I can promise you, if they can go after Tennessee, they can go after if they're going to go after Georgia, then they are not afraid to try and tackle any of the Pacific Rim characters that we see in college football right now.
All right, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you do donate and it's on topic, I will read it immediately. If not, we'll definitely catch it in the show. And feel free to ask your questions. Go to Broken Devil Dog with the $5 donation here. Appreciate it. So what NCAA is the enemy again now that Michigan is not being targeted? Is it always funny till it's your school, right?
Yeah, well, it's again, it's being able to see the beach through the forest, right? And you have to find out what they're going after. This isn't, hey, you got, like the old school, you guys paid a kid or you guys broke contact rules of when he can come on campus or anything like that, a little bit what we saw with Michigan. They're going after the collective. They are going after the way the collective operated, whether it's through the transfer portal or whether it's through the recruitment. So I will say this again. This is a pipeline case, which means they're going to start stacking up different schools behind this. So, again, if you are a fan of a big-time school, nobody's safe out here. Nobody's safe out here. So the NCAA's biggest enemy, outside of being itself with the way they operate, is the power over college football. That's what they are fighting for, and that's what they are losing, and they are making desperate decisions, in my opinion, to try and hold on to that. This doesn't feel like the pettiness toward Jim Harbaugh, right? This doesn't feel like, they just dislike who's leading the Tennessee program, so they're picking and choosing which rules to enforce to go after this person. No, they're going after the collective. And at the end of the day, that opens up a broad spectrum to go after everybody else. And I'll say it again, you're about to hear some schools' names that's going after that the NCAA is going to go after that's going to add some more monsters to this fight against them. It's like, listen, Napoleon beat the coalition a lot of times, all right? But they threw it at it seven. They threw the coalition at him 7 times, all right? And the guys that are teaming up in this one, you're not beating if you're the NCAA. Just remember.
And I'll tell you another way the NCAA doesn't help themselves when it comes to procedure. I'll say the same thing here that I said when it came to the Michigan case. Tennessee has received no notice of official wrongdoing. How does that happen? I mean, if I turn right on red where I'm not supposed to, and everyone else does it, but I'm the one who got caught, the police officer comes to my car and says, here's what you did, here's your ticket, you report to court. Not this game of, well, we're going to leak to the media that you're under investigation. Yeah. You're not allowed to comment on it, but we can. And oh, by the way, we're not going to issue any notice officially of wrongdoing until we want to, and we desire, Michigan. Because you then would have 90 days once you receive that, so we're going to wait. Oh, and when did they drop the notice of allegations on Michigan? On signing day. So yeah, get ready for Tennessee. Yeah. Sometime when they're the most vulnerable or when it'll hurt the most, the day before the Alabama game, let them know that they receive a reduction of 15 scholarships or something. Again, those are the type of ways that the NCAA doesn't do themselves any favors.
Hey, YouTube, thanks for hopping by. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Turn that notification bell on. We appreciate all the love. Our growth has been incredible. Keep spreading the word. Thank you, guys.